Likening, Exaltation, and Atheism. These are the three creeds. Of all the creeds, of all the religions and all the creeds, they boil down to these three. The first one mentioned is likening, because that's what most of the people would do because of following their imaginations and not using their intellects. So they would liken God to the creations, whether they worshipped stars or animals or otherwise. Exaltation is in the middle because it's not likening God to the creation, but at the same time, it's not atheism. Because atheism is also not likening God to the creations, because atheism is a denial of God's existence altogether. Exaltation is not a denial of God's existence. Rather, it's a denial of likening God to the creation, but while confirming his existence. Exaltation is confirming Allah's existence without likening him to the creations. That's called in Arabic tanzih. So exaltation is in the middle. Allah said in the Quran, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. We made you, nation of Muhammad, a moderate nation. That means in the middle. At-Tahawi said, وَهُوَ بَيْنَ الْغُلُوِّ وَالتَّقْصِيرِ وَبَيْنَ التَّشْبِيهِ وَالتَّعْطِيلِ وَبَيْنَ الْجَبْرِ وَالْقَدَرِ وَبَيْنَ الْأَمْنِ وَالْإِيَاثِ. Islam lies between extremism and neglect, likening and atheism, denying created will and believing in one making his own destiny, feeling safe from the punishment of Allah, and despairing of Allah's mercy. So, in demonstrating how Islam is moderate in the middle, At-Tahawi mentions some cases. Islam lies between extremism and neglect. Extremism means to go too far, and neglect means not to go far enough. So Islam is in the middle. Likening and atheism, we just explained. Denying created will, that's for someone to deny that creatures have their own choice and they have some autonomy. That means ability to choose without being forced. So denying that and believing in one making his own destiny. So Islam is in the middle of those two, because we don't deny that slaves have a created will and a choice and an autonomy. Indeed, we do have a will and a choice. But also, we don't believe that we make our own destiny. Our confirming that we have a choice, that we make choices and we're not forced to act, and we have voluntary deeds, that doesn't believe that we make our own destinies. So Islam is between those two. And feeling safe from the punishment of Allah. For Imam At-Tahawi, that means for a person to believe that Allah cannot punish, and despairing of Allah's mercy. For At-Tahawi, that means, according to Tahawi, that means one believes that Allah does not forgive. Feeling safe from the punishment is for one to believe that Allah does not punish. Like, if someone believes that no Muslim will be tortured for his sin, then that's this here. Feeling safe from the punishment of Allah, that's blasphemy. And despairing of Allah's mercy means one believes that Allah Ta'ala does not forgive. According to At-Tahawi, those are blasphemy, but some scholars explain those words with other terms that we're not going to go into for now. But Islam is in between all of those. So we believe that Allah punishes and we believe that Allah forgives. The Mu'tazila denied that Allah is attributed with speech because they thought that the word kalam, speech, only refers to letters and sounds, because they thought that the word kalam only refers to letters, sounds, words, and language. So they said Allah doesn't have letters and sounds and words and language. Well, that's true, but then they went too far and they said, so he doesn't have speech. That's not true. The Mushabbiha, the Likeners, they claimed that Allah speaks Arabic because they thought that the word kalam, speech, only refers to letters, sounds, and language. So they said, since kalam is letters, sounds, and language, then Allah speaks Arabic. That's not true. Ahlul Sunnah said that Allah speaks without letters, sounds, or languages because they knew that kalam, speech, can mean that which makes one understand. So they're in the middle. The Mu'tazila denied that Allah can be seen because they thought that the only thing that could be seen is something with a body. They said Allah is not a body, so it's impossible that he be seen. The Mushabbiha, the Likeners, they thought that Allah is something with a body because he can be seen. They said Allah can be seen, so he must be a body. Ahlul Sunnah said that Allah can be seen without being a body or having the attributes of a body because he exists. So Ahlul Sunnah is in the middle. The Mu'tazila denied that Allah created the deeds of the slaves. They said, we create our own deeds and we make our own destinies. The Jabariyah denied that the slaves have a will at all. They said, Allah creates our deeds, so we have no will to choose anything. That's wrong. Both of those are wrong. Ahlul Sunnah said that the slaves have a will that is under the will of Allah. Wa subhanallahi wa bihamdi. Exaltation. The creed of the Muslims is called Tanzih, exaltation, which is the belief of confirming the existence of Allah while clearing him from resembling the creations. This belief is the haven between the extremes of resembling and denying. Resembling is basically what? Shirk. Denying is atheism. So Tanzih is between shirk and atheism. Allah refuted both extremes when he said in his book, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. Nothing is whatsoever like him, and he is the hearer, the seer. This ayah refutes both of those groups. Here he denied any likeness to himself, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ. So he refuted here in this ayah the likeners. And he confirmed that he is ascribed with attributes. وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. So he refuted the atheists. At-Tahawi said, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَتَوَقَّ النَّفْيَ وَالتَّشْبِيهِ زَلَّ وَلَمْ يُصِبِ التَّنْزِيهِ. Whoever does not guard himself from negation and likening has slipped and has not arrived at exaltation. So this Tanzih, this is the belief when it comes to all religions. It's only the belief of Muslims. Some people, they deny that, but they have no basis to deny that, only that they don't like the fact. Christians liken God to the creations, and Jews liken, and Hindus are likeners, mushriks, pagans, and all those different religions are. And atheists are atheists. So what's left? Only the Muslims believe that God exists without being like his creations. And also, who believes like that? Some individual human beings who, even if they're not Muslims, but they use their minds and they realized that God is not a body or a shape or a form. They might not even in their minds have details, like they might not be saying to themselves, Allah exists without a place, Allah has this attribute and this attribute and this attribute, and he's not dimensions and he's not made of particles. They might not have gone that far, but really they did understand within themselves tanzih without being Muslims. So then, why they're not Muslims if they believe in tanzih? Because a Muslim is someone who believes in Allah and his messenger. Allah says, إنما المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله ثم لم يرتابوا. Merely the believers are those who believe in Allah and his messenger, and then they have no doubt. And of course they said the shahada too. So if someone just is some individual person, not a Muslim, never said the shahada, doesn't believe in the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, but he reached tanzih for himself, then what is he? He's a muwahhid, a monotheist, not a Muslim. So every Muslim is a muwahhid monotheist, but not every muwahhid is a Muslim. If you meet a muwahhid, it's usually easy to make them become Muslims. You just have to convince them about the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. They already know that Allah doesn't resemble the creations. It was narrated about Ash-Shafi'i that he said, Man intahada li ma'rifati mudabbirih. Whoever got up to know his creator, فَطُمَأَنَّ إِلَى مَوْجُودٍ يَنْتَهِي إِلَيْهِ فِكْرُهُ, and settles on a being whom his thought can encompass, فَهُوَ مُشَبِّهٌ, then he is a likener, he is a mushabbih. وَإِنْ يَطْمَأَنَّ إِلَى الْعَدَمِ الصِّرْفِ فَهُوَ مُعَطِّلٌ. If he settles on pure non-existence, he is a mu'attil, he is an atheist. وَإِنِ اطْمَأَنَّ إِلَى مَوْجُودٍ وَاعْتَرَفَ بِالْعَجْزِ عَنْ إِدْرَاكِهِ, and if he settles on a being and admits that his mind cannot conceive him, فَهُوَ مُوَحِّد, then he is a muwahhid, a monotheist. In Al-Asma' wa Sifat, Al-Bayhaqi narrated that Abu Sulaiman Al-Khattabi said, الذي يجب علينا وعلى كل مسلم أن يعلمه, what is an obligation on us and on every Muslim to know, أن ربنا ليس بذي صورة ولا هيئة, is that our Lord is not one with an image or a format. فَإِنَّ الصُّورَةَ تَقْتَضِي الْكَيْفِيَّةَ, for an image necessitates a manner of being. وَهِيَ عَنِ اللَّهِ وَعَنْ صِفَاتِهِ مَنْفِيَّةٌ, and that from Allah and his attributes is negated. The word kayfiyya might be used to mean the reality, as said by the poet, كيفية المرء ليس المرء يدركها فكيف كيفية الجبار في القدم. The how of man, man himself does not encompass it. So how about the how of Al-Jabbar in eternity? That's what that line of poetry means. But since there is ugliness in saying Al-Jabbar's how, which he means his reality, He doesn't mean a manner of being, he means his reality. Since there is ugliness in saying Al-Jabbar's how, the Sheikh composed an alternative line. He said, حقيقة المرء ليس المرء يدركها فكيف يدرك كنه الخالق الأزلي. The reality of man, man himself does not encompass it. So how would he encompass the reality of the eternal creator? So what's wrong with the word kayfiyah? It means how. So what's wrong with the word how? It means what way. So that means, in other words, how is a question for something created, for a created description. How is a question that cannot even pertain to Allah. So we say there is no how, bila kayf. But Sheikh is clarifying for us that some people use it and they don't mean a bad meaning. They mean a real correct meaning. They mean reality. But this should be avoided. Saying kayf, al-kayfiyya, kayfiyatullah, the how of Allah, that should be avoided at all costs, at all costs. Or else, if you allow that, then the Wahhabi will creep in. You let your people start saying that, and then the Wahhabis will infiltrate you and take over. Only Allah knows the haqiqah, the reality of His self, not the kayfiyah, the haqiqah. Only Allah knows the reality of His self and attributes. Our knowledge of Him is limited to knowing about what is necessary to attribute to Him, like knowledge and power, what is impossible, like a partner, and what is valid, like His creating something or not. Al-Rifa'i said, غاية المعرفة بالله الإيقان بوجوده تعالى بلا كيف ولا مكان. The ultimate understanding about Allah that the slave can achieve is the certainty in His existence. Exalted is He, without a how and without a place. The great scholar Ibrahim ibn Tawbah, also known as Dhunnun al-Misri, said, مهما تصورت ببالك فالله بخلاف ذلك. Whatever you imagine in your mind, Allah is different from that. Instead of trying to imagine Allah, we are encouraged to ponder on the creation. As Allah said, وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. And they think about the creation of heavens and earth. Yani, they don't think about Allah, His reality. They don't try to encompass or imagine or conceive the reality of Allah. They think about the creation of heavens and earth. And then they use that to increase their faith and glorify Allah. This will help us increase our glorification of the Creator. However, not included in thinking about the self of Allah is clearing Him, yani, thinking about the self of Allah, this statement, what's meant by it here is the reality of the self of Allah. Not included in thinking about the reality of the self of Allah, which is forbidden, is clearing Him from resembling the creations by saying He exists eternally and everlastingly. That's not forbidden. He existed before time and place. That's not forbidden. A Wahhabi will forbid you from this. He is not ascribed with any descriptions of humans. He sees without a pupil and hears without an ear or an ear canal. He speaks without letters and sounds, etc. There's nothing forbidden about any of that. Rather, this is explanation and application of the saying of Allah, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. Nothing whatsoever resembles Him. وَسُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ وَبِحَمْدِهِ. Likening. Tashbih, likening, is believing that Allah is similar to his creations in some or all ways. If you have any question, please feel free. Tashbih is believing that Allah is similar to his creations in some or all ways, and likening his self or attributes to that of the creation. It is a type of shirk. Its people are called mushabbiha, likeners, and they exist among Shiites, Khawarij, and others, even Mu'tazila. Like those of Basra, the Mu'tazila of Basra, who said that Allah's will recurs in his self, that he wills and then stops willing, and then he wills and then he stops willing. They also likened his speech to that of the creation by saying that it is a characteristic that dwells in bodies. They say his speech is something that he creates in bodies, like a tree. A tree will speak, and then since Allah made that tree speak, that's the speech of Allah. That's what they say. That's shirk. That's tashbih. And at the same time, it's denial. But we'll come back to that. Because they're denying really, what they really want to do by that is to deny that he has an attribute called speech. The likeners are sometimes referred to as al-hashwiyah, ramblers. Abu al-Muzaffar said that the Hishami Shiites are the origin of tashbih in the nation of Muhammad, and that they took it from the Jews. There are two groups of them. The group of Hisham ibn al-Hakam, who said that Allah is a light that sparkles from all directions like a bar of pure gold or a white pearl, and that his height is 7 handspans of his own hands. So that's clear tashbih and shirk. And the other is the group of Hisham ibn Salim al-Jawaliqi, who said that Allah has the image of a person, but his upper half is hollow and his lower half is solid. He also confirms for Allah flesh, blood, a head with black hair, hands, feet, nose, ears, eyes, mouth, and a heart, which is a source of wisdom. He claimed that wisdom spouts from his heart, like water springs from a spring. If those likeners believe that Allah has a body, they are called mujassima. If they believe he is in a direction, they are called jihawiyah. If they believe he has a voice or makes a sound, they are called sawtiyah. If they believe that God dwells within the bodies of his slaves, they are called hululiyah. Sheikh Jamil Halim said that their creed originates from the Christians, the hululiyah, who believe that God dwelled in Jesus. For there was no one among the Muslims with such a creed, and whoever believed such a creed would not be a Muslim. It was said that some of those hululiyah said that had the Christians generalized, they would have been correct. But since they specified that dwelling to Jesus, they limited that dwelling to Jesus, then they are mistaken. What is mentioned in the books of Muhyiddin ibn al-Arabi is confirmed to be fabrication about him. Some talk about hulul and ittihad. If they believe that he is one with the world, then they are the people of ittihad, ahlul ittihad. They claimed that Allah unified with the world and that the human can purify himself until he merges with Allah. Whoever believes that the world in totality is Allah confirms godhood for the dog, the sandals, and the devil. These last two groups, the hululiyah and the people of ittihad, they move under the guise of being Sufis. They are refuted by the saying of Allah, كل شيء هالك إلا وجهه. Everything shall be annihilated except his wajh. This ayah refutes both of those groups. Some Shiite cults have worshipped Ali and the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, like the Khattabiyah. They also said that Abu al-Khattab al-Asadi is a god. Wa subhanallahi wa bihamdi. Atheism. Ta'til is denying the existence of Allah or any of his attributes. This is the school of the Mu'tazila, atheists, and philosophers. Ta'til. All factions of the Mu'tazila agreed upon the denial of the attributes of Allah. They said that eternally he had no power, knowledge, will, sight, hearing, speech, or everlastingness, and that in eternity he had no name or attribute. It's kufr. It's a very ugly kufr. What do you think of a person who will say something like that? What do you think? You think that's a righteous person who loved the religion? In fact, the philosophers and former Mu'tazila denied the attributes and said that there is no confirmed meaning beyond what is understood by the self. They meant Allah is a self with no attributes, and there's nothing that can be understood but a self. There's nothing that we can conceive about Allah but a self. It's still atheism. They said, for had there been attributes for Allah, it would necessitate composition in the self. They're saying, if Allah had attributes, knowledge, power, will, etc., then that means he has pieces and parts and composition. No, it doesn't mean that. So that's blasphemy. However, they have no difference among themselves, those atheists, those Mu'tazilis and others. They have no difference among themselves that Allah has names and ascriptions as far as the necessity of needing expressions is concerned. But to them, these expressions are figurative. What that means is they deny that Allah has attributes, but since they found it impossible to be able to talk about these matters without using words that are attributes, then they allowed using some words, but claimed that that's only figurative. It's only some words. It's like they're saying they're just some words we need to get a point across, but really it's not true. Furthermore, some of those who have merged between using hadiths and philosophy, like Ibn Hazm, have denied the validity of the expression sifa, attribute. They have inappropriately discredited the hadith in the two books of Sahih with the term Sifatul Rahman, the attribute of Ar-Rahman. Al-Bayhaqi also narrates from Ibn Abbas that the Prophet ﷺ said to the Jews after reciting Suratul Ikhlas to them, هذه صفة ربي عز وجل. This is the ascription of my Lord, the sifa of my Lord. They have exaggerated, those Mu'tazili atheists. They have exaggerated in denying multiplicity. Yani, they claim that they want to just confirm Tawheed, monotheism, oneness, and deny anything contrary to oneness. They want to deny any and all multiplicity. So they have exaggerated in denying multiplicity to the extent that they said that his existence is a pure, unadulterated existence with no other reality or type of thing ascribed to it. For us, Allah has confirmed these attributes for himself in his glorious book, so it is obligatory to ascribe him with them. Additionally, it is impossible to confirm the existence of someone who has such names as knowledgeable and powerful while denying their linguistic origins, i.e., knowledge and power. If it is obligatory to confirm the names Al-Alim, the knowledgeable, and Al-Qadir, the powerful, then it is obligatory to confirm Ilm, knowledge, and Qudrah, power. Allah said, وَسِعَ رَبِّي كُلَّ شَيْءٍ عِلْمًا. My Lord encompassed everything in knowledge. Yani, that's an ayah from the Quran. Allah tells us that one of his slaves said that. Now I don't remember who said that. Also, إِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الرَّزَّاقُ ذُو الْقُوَّةِ الْمَتِينَ. Certainly Allah, he is the provider, the possessor of power, al-mateen, the powerful. فَعَّالٌ لِمَا يُرِيدُ. He does whatever he wills. So these verses are evidence that Allah has attributes, not just names, not just adjectives, descriptive names, but actually attributes. The verb yurid, wills, would not be confirmed without the confirmation of its origin, which is the will. If it is confirmed about the will, knowledge, and power, then it is confirmed about the rest of the attributes. Since no one differentiates between them in this issue, yani, there's no group, no sect that makes a difference between the will and the knowledge and the power. So, if this is confirmed about will and knowledge, then it's confirmed about all the other attributes. In other words, no one can say to you, okay, sure, Allah has will, yurid, sure, Allah has knowledge, ilma, but where'd you get the rest of those attributes from? He cannot deny them because there is no faction anyway or sect that differentiates between these attributes. So if one of them is confirmed, the rest of them are confirmed. Therefore, their claim that they have confirmed the names, those Mu'tazila, they claim that why they use these names of Allah, Alim, Qadir, if they don't believe that he has attributes. Their claim that they have confirmed the names because of the textual evidence. They say, well, it's in the Quran, Alim, Qadir, that's why we use those names. They say, and because it is known in the religion by necessity, they say, but the attributes themselves are not confirmed by the texts. This is invalid. We just gave texts that show that Allah has attributes. Some scholars have considered that the confirmation of the name in the texts is, in fact, a documented confirmation of the attribute. For the aforementioned reason, yani, if they say, well, the Quran does say Qadir, powerful, Alim, knowledgeable, etc. But it doesn't say Qudrah, so you can't say Qudrah. We say, like some scholars said, the fact that that name is there means or is an explicit documentation of the attribute, actually. What the Mu'tazila are saying is, just because that name is there doesn't mean that that's really explicitly giving him an attribute. Saying Qadir is not explicitly giving him an attribute. We say, absolutely it is. So their claim that these attributes are not explicitly mentioned in the Quran and that only the adjectives are is a false, fallacious claim. According to this, Abul Walid ibn Rushd said, there is no difference between the one who said Allah does not have knowledge and the one who said that Allah is not knowledgeable. This is why the Mu'tazila who denied the attribute and confirmed its judgment, which is the name that's derived from the attribute, are judged as blasphemers. They are kuffar, not Muslims. It's kufr. The result of denying the attribute is the denial of its judgment in reality. Deny the attribute and deny the name. Deny the attribute and deny the validity of the name. These deniers have differed. A faction of the philosophers called as-Salbiya said that the meaning of him being alive, knowledgeable, and powerful, etc., is that he is not dead, ignorant, or weak. That's their way of denying these attributes. So what's the answer? This talk implies that the characteristic like a color or a smell would also be alive, knowledgeable, and powerful, since it's not dead, ignorant, or weak. So think about that. Others claim that Allah has ahwal, circumstances that are not existent or non-existent, called alimiya, knowledgeableness, and qadiriya, powerfulness, and hayyiya, aliveness. So that's some rubbish that they said to deny the attributes, but they still need words that they have to use. You still have to have words to use to engage in a conversation. So they go through all of this misguidance. The latter-day Mu'tazila, like Abu Hashim, denied the attributes while confirming their derived descriptions. That's what we're talking about mostly. Thus, they said that Allah is knowledgeable by His self, not by knowledge, powerful by His self, not by power, etc. And they argued by the saying of Allah, لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ ثَالِثُ ثَلَاثَةٍ. Look at all those thas in there. ثَالِثُ ثَلَاثَةٍ, four thas. Which means, by God, those who said that Allah is the third of three have blasphemed. Then it's obvious for you that this ayah has nothing to do with confirming His attributes. That's almost a Wahhabi move there. Don't those Wahhabis bring stuff that really doesn't prove anything they're saying? Jahm ibn Safwan used to say that it is not permissible to ascribe to Allah anything that is ascribed to the slaves. So it is not said, according to him, that He is alive, knowledgeable, willing, or even existing, because all of these attributes are used for the slaves. He said, it is said about Him that He is a doer. He is the doer, the creator, the giver of life, and the giver of death, because these are not said about the slaves. وَسُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ وَبِحَمْدِهِ